Sanders to throw. Flushed out of the pocket. Looking. Flacco to throw again. Looks, reads, connects with David Njoku.
Everything the Browns have wanted when they drafted him.
3rd and 5. Sanders is going to run, and he will.
A lot of times with these coaches and coaches like Kevin Stefanski, it's ego over execution. It's plays over players. At the end of the day, you got to give this kid a shot to redeem himself. That's the beauty of being a rookie. You're going to go out there, you're going to struggle, you're going to have some success, you're going to struggle again, but you want to see them come out on the other side. Now, Shedeur had 5 sacks. 5 drives, just was trying to impress coaches, the fans, trying to live up to what Dylan Gabriel just put out there on the field. And Kevin Stefanski handled that situation and this whole quarterback competition horribly because you removed an opportunity for him to redeem himself in that situation.
Kevin Stefanski just did the unthinkable. He apologized to Shedeur Sanders and admitted that starting Joe Flacco was a mistake. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Browns head coach stood there and essentially said, "Oops, my bad," like he'd misplaced his car keys, not derailed an entire season. So the real question is, what's behind this sudden mea culpa? Did Stefanski just tip his hand and admit to sabotaging his own team, or is this nothing more than a last-ditch act of damage control?
I feel like everybody feels like, they should be on the team, and if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player, I think about myself in a high regard, of course. So it's not my decision. Yeah, I didn't know I was out.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was on the bike, I was powering up. I was powering up for that 2-minute drive because, that's just a situation every quarterback dreams for.
If you're enjoying, please subscribe Shedeur Sanders to the channel. It helps more than you think. The Cleveland Browns, a franchise that somehow manages to invent new ways to trip over its own shoelaces every season, just dropped a stunner. Kevin Stefanski, the man steering this roller coaster of dysfunction, admitted that starting Joe Flacco was, in fact, a colossal mistake. Yes, you heard that right. An NFL head coach actually stood up and said, "I was wrong." That kind of honesty in the league is rarer than spotting Bigfoot riding a unicycle through Times Square. For a team known for chaos, this twist might just take the cake.
I'm about to unleash about Shedeur Sanders. Watch what happened to Shedeur Sanders in the Cleveland Browns' 3rd and final preseason game. And I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened. By the way, Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
But Stefanski didn't stop there. He actually apologized to Shedeur Sanders. That means 2 things. 1, hell just froze over, and 2, the Browns may have finally realized they've had a Ferrari collecting dust in the garage while trying to race with a beat-up minivan. And let's not forget, this is Cleveland, the city where quarterbacks come and go faster than unpaid interns at a failing startup. The Browns' quarterback room has been a revolving door for decades, and this season has been no different. Only now, the stakes are higher, and their mishandling of Sanders is impossible to ignore.
Walked up to you after taking his walk down to the pylon, and then he walked back up to you on the sidelines before Snoop went in, and he said something to you. You shook your head. I mean, was he trying to get back in?
He's a competitive kid. The plan was to go with Snoop there, so. But I wouldn't make any more of it than that.
Deshaun Watson was banged up, Joe Flacco was dragged out of retirement like a dusty DVD player found in the basement, and poor Shedeur Sanders was left standing on the sideline like a kid at a birthday party, watching everyone else eat cake. The Browns had a choice right in front of them. They could hand the reins to the flashy young quarterback bursting with energy and hungry to prove himself, or they could stick with the veteran who hasn't looked truly dangerous since the iPhone 6 was still the hottest thing on the market. And of course, in true Cleveland fashion, Stefanski went with the latter, choosing experience over excitement, and predictability over potential.
about Kevin Stefanski's ego. We saw this with Baker Mayfield. Oh, it doesn't fit my system. Well, your system has to be about the players that are in it. And we've seen him do this because the offense was completely different when Dylan Gabriel was out there. It was a lot of, short, quick passes to get the ball out of his hands, spread the formation, which is great. That's what you're supposed to do for a guy that thrives in that situation. So I don't know why for Shedeur the offense changed. He kind of wanted to curate something around him. But at the end of the day, Shedeur recognized he had to play better. That game looked a lot like that UCLA game his first year in college.
Joe Flacco. The man, the myth, the statue. Stefanski seemed to believe that Flacco's playoff resume would somehow sprinkle magic dust over the Browns' offense. But instead of fireworks, Cleveland got smoke and sputters. Flacco wasn't a disaster on every snap, but his inconsistency was impossible to ignore. One moment, he'd launch a gorgeous deep ball that reminded you of his glory days. The next, he'd serve up a gift-wrapped interception straight into a linebacker's chest. The gamble didn't pay off, and Stefanski knew it. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders stood on the sideline with that look, the look of a kid who studied all week for the exam only to watch the teacher hand the test to the guy who slept through class. Every stalled drive, every wasted possession, every interception was like a flashing neon sign screaming, "Why isn't Shedeur starting?" Fans noticed. Analysts noticed. Even people who don't usually watch Browns football suddenly found themselves yelling at their TVs, convinced the team was clinging to the past while ignoring the future sitting right there on the bench.
Yeah, Flacco started today, and I'll give you this, he played well. He was 9 out of 10 for 71 yards, threw a couple of nice balls. Dylan Gabriel played the second quarter and played well. He always plays well. I know him inside and out. I watched every snap he took for 2 years at the University of Oklahoma. Watched a lot of him at Oregon. He's a good little battler. He will, as he says, compete. He's a little better than Tua is, and he's sort of a carbon copy of Tua, also from Hawaii.
And now, Stefanski has finally stepped up and said it, he blew it. He admitted that sticking with Flacco wasn't the right move and that Sanders should have had his shot. The apology itself was almost shocking because NFL coaches don't usually admit mistakes. They prefer the classic, "we'll look at the tape" or "we're just taking it one game at a time" cliché routine. Stefanski breaking from that mold shows just how big of a deal this was. It wasn't just about one decision, it was about the ripple effect on the locker room, the fans, and the future of the team. And let's be honest, if you're Shedeur Sanders, this is the kind of apology that feels like winning the argument you've been having with your older brother for years. Stefanski's apology isn't just about fixing the past, it's about laying the groundwork for what comes next. He knows the fans are demanding change. He knows the locker room needs belief in the guy under center. And he knows that admitting this mistake is the first step in saying, "Sanders is our guy now." The apology may have been aimed at Shedeur, but the real message was sent to the NFL. Cleveland is ready to stop clinging to the past and finally invest in the future.
Some things that Kevin Stefanski is saying and the way he's going about things, some things are just not adding up. And Ryan Clark of ESPN basically exposed Kevin Stefanski this morning on Get Up. He had a very interesting take on Kevin Stefanski's motive. Also, this is all surrounded around naming Joe Flacco QB1 for opening day against Cincinnati.
To be fair, Stefanski had reasons. Flacco had playoff experience, he had seen just about every defense in the book, and he wasn't going to be rattled by the moment. But let's not kid ourselves. There's a difference between being calm under pressure and being immovable because you literally can't run 5 yards without looking like you pulled a hamstring. The Browns didn't just sign a veteran quarterback, they signed a walking monument. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is standing on the sideline, helmet in hand, probably wondering if the coaches had forgotten his existence. The funniest part? Stefanski seemed committed. He doubled down on Flacco like a gambler who just lost his house and decided the smart move was to bet the car, the dog, and his neighbor's lawnmower on one more spin of the roulette wheel. Each week, when people asked if Sanders would play, Stefanski gave the kind of vague answers you'd expect from a politician dodging a scandal. Fans weren't just frustrated, they were starting to wonder if the man had forgotten the definition of the word development.
I'm not sure what game you guys are watching. Again, I state, Shedeur did play bad. He did. But why he played bad is clear as day if you understand the game of football and what he had to work with. Kevin Stefanski not letting Shedeur come back in the game to finish the 2-minute drill. Oh, I've never seen that before. I've never in my life ever have seen anything like that before. What are we doing? What are we doing? No disrespect to Snoop Huntley. Snoop is probably not going to be on the team. He's probably not going to be on the team.
Then came the breaking point. Another game, another interception, another wave of outrage. It reached the point where the Browns' own players were reportedly giving side-eye on the sideline, the kind of look that says, "We're professionals, but what are we doing here?" By the time Stefanski finally admitted his mistake, the damage was already done. The Browns had wasted valuable games on a nostalgia trip while the future of the franchise collected dust on the bench. And let's be honest, when Stefanski finally came clean, it wasn't just an apology. It was a confession. It was like the teacher finally admitting to the class that, yes, assigning a group project where no one knew what the assignment was might not have been the smartest idea. It was an acknowledgement that the Browns put their trust in the wrong man, and everyone else saw it coming from a mile away. But the apology wasn't just for Sanders. Young, athletic, confident, and with that unmistakable swagger passed down from his father, Sanders wasn't just sitting on the bench, he was sitting on the future. And the irony of all of this? Stefanski admitted he had that future right there, polished and ready, and chose instead to roll out a veteran whose career highlights were old enough to have their own high school diplomas.
The big question is, who is your QB2? Who's your QB3? Now, guys, if you really know what's going on in football in the quarterback position, sometimes teams don't carry 4 quarterbacks on the roster. So now you got the starting quarterback and you got the backup quarterback, and then the 3rd string and 4th string, they're probably demoted down to the practice squad or even let go.
What made this whole saga sting even more for Browns fans was the wasted opportunity. Shedeur represented everything Cleveland hasn't had in decades, a quarterback who could inspire actual long-term belief. Not a one-season wonder, not a guy duct-taped together for one playoff run, but a true foundation. His mobility, his accuracy, his leadership, those were the things this franchise needed to finally escape its quarterback curse. Instead, Stefanski stuck him in bubble wrap like a collectible action figure, while the Browns stumbled forward with Flacco holding the steering wheel like he was trying to parallel park an aircraft carrier. The apology to Sanders changes that. It wasn't just Stefanski saying, "Sorry for not letting you play." It was Stefanski essentially admitting, "Yeah, you were the guy all along, and I ignored you." That kind of apology doesn't bruise an ego, it builds a legacy. And make no mistake, fans are here for it. Cleveland has always been a city starving for a savior at quarterback. They've been through more signal callers than most people go through cell phone chargers. Sanders gives them hope. He's young, he's flashy, and he's got the kind of confidence you can't teach. It's not arrogance, it's presence. When he steps on the field, he looks like he belongs.
And they're not going to give up that position because their jobs are going to be on the line too to get one of those quarterbacks. So to your point, if the season plays out that way, and again, we don't know how it's going to play out, but if it play out that way, there won't be enough time or games left to evaluate either rookie. And then you turn the page to 2026. Okay, these two have had the majority of this season, hypothetically, to sit behind the veterans. Let's see what they've learned. Let's see what they've done in practice. Let's see what year 2 looks like for both of them being an NFL quarterback.
And now that Stefanski has admitted he should have been playing him, fans are going to demand it louder than ever. The funny part? Stefanski probably thought his apology was damage control, but in reality, it was gasoline poured on the bonfire of hype surrounding Sanders. Fans who were already clamoring for him to start now have the ultimate talking point. The coach himself admitted it. Imagine how unbearable Browns Twitter is right now. Every post, every meme, every argument ends with, "Even Stefanski knows Sanders should be the starter." It's the kind of ammunition that fan bases dream of having. Players who might have been hesitant about joining the Browns suddenly see potential stability under center. Sanders' presence, and Stefanski's apology, might just shift how the entire league views Cleveland. And that's no small feat, it's almost poetic, really. The Browns, the butt of endless quarterback jokes for decades, may have stumbled onto the real deal, and it took their head coach admitting failure for everyone to realize it. Sanders doesn't just represent the next man up, he represents the possibility that Cleveland might finally stop being the NFL's running gag. And that's why this apology feels less like an oops and more like a turning point.
Know exactly what Kevin's trying to say, but I think what Kevin is trying to say is, you know, the old coaching adage of if you don't practice, you don't play, right? Like, so the other guys on the depth chart have had injuries throughout camp, probably haven't been able to show, get enough practice reps to show what they get. And whereas Flacco has been, he's taken every rep he was scheduled to take. And I think that what Kevin is trying to say there is rooted in that idea of like, I mean, it's easy to sit here, it's like, it's the Cleveland Browns, what do you mean high standards? Correct. Like the worst. But
I can hear your brain grind.
Yeah. But I think that's the point of like, he's trying to explain the decision to go with Flacco by saying, look, we've seen it, we know what he can do, and the others still have to get there.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, how often do NFL coaches own up to bad decisions? Almost never. Most of the time, they bury it in cliches about execution and game flow. Stefanski stepping up and essentially bowing to Sanders is monumental. It's a crack in the old guard's armor. It's a signal that the Browns are ready to stop clinging to the past and embrace the future, even if it took a public mea culpa to get there. And if Sanders delivers on that promise? If he takes this moment, this apology, and turns it into fuel for dominance on the field? That apology will go down as the day the Browns' cursed quarterback carousel finally came to a halt. The memes came fast. Flacco in a rocking chair. Stefanski holding a "sorry, my bad" sign photoshopped onto billboards. Sanders photoshopped as the King of Cleveland, sitting on a throne made entirely out of football helmets from every quarterback the Browns have burned through in the past 2 decades. One genius even made a mock movie poster titled The Apology, starring Stefanski as the regretful head coach and Sanders as the hero who forgave but never forgot.
We all, I mean, Kevin came in the room and talked to all of us. We all talk. We're this close to each other every single day. I mean, there can be some awkwardness, but at the end of the day, like, we're all adults. We just want to be honest with each other. We want people to be honest with us. And at the end, like, if you get that, we've all been through situations like this. You feel good about whatever it is. Honesty is the main thing. Looking somebody in the eye and having a conversation with them is the main thing. Doesn't mean you're going to be happy and all that. Just whatever is happening going on. I think if all that any of us answer, listen, the guys in that room are professionals. We all know that.
And it wasn't just the Browns fan base chiming in. Rival fans, especially from Pittsburgh and Baltimore, had a field day. Steelers fans mocked Stefanski for being the first coach in NFL history to openly admit his quarterbacking strategy was a clown car of bad ideas. Ravens fans gleefully reminded Cleveland that they let Flacco, their discarded old relic, run their offense into the ground. It was open season, and everyone brought their best one-liners. The national media couldn't resist either. Sports analysts went on television acting like archaeologists who had just unearthed a rare artifact. They sat there wide-eyed, marveling at the mythical creature that is an NFL head coach admitting fault. One analyst even joked that Stefanski's apology should be locked away in the Smithsonian next to the Constitution, because that's how rare it is. Of course, the apology also sparked debates. Was Stefanski being genuine, or was it a desperate attempt to save face with a fan base that was ready to storm the stadium with pitchforks? Was he truly admitting to being wrong, or was this just a clever way to hype Sanders and distract from the team's failures? Nobody could quite agree, which only made the story more entertaining. The only consensus? This was peak Cleveland Browns drama.
Who was going to be the starter from before the whole thing started? Lewis is the most important piece of this now, seeing who the backup is.
Yeah, it probably.
One of these two rookies is going to get the play.
It has to play itself out. You just can't let that hang, in limbo forever. Because look, that guy understands he's one snap away. So you have to give him some reps. You have to give him some attention in the meeting room, on the practice field, and he can't just run cards all week long. He can't just be a scout team guy. So either that's going to be Dylan Gabriel getting that, Kenny Pickett getting that, or Shedeur getting that. So yeah, that has to be decided upon. I'm sure he already has.
Should we read a lot into it, whatever it is? We shouldn't read a lot into who the backup quarterback is unless it's not.
The players, on the other hand, seemed to take it differently. Word leaked out that Sanders had earned a wave of respect in the locker room after the apology. Teammates reportedly started treating him like the guy, because if the coach says you're the better option, everyone else falls in line. It flipped the narrative overnight. 1 minute Sanders was just another young QB biding his time, the next, he was the chosen one, backed by the power of public contrition. But you can't talk about fallout without mentioning the Cleveland sports curse. Every time something remotely good happens for this franchise, fans immediately brace for disaster. So, while many were celebrating Sanders' rise, others were already making nervous jokes. Still, Stefanski's apology gave them something they rarely get: hope laced with accountability. It wasn't just about Shedeur Sanders, it was about the idea that maybe, just maybe, the Browns could learn from their mistakes. Maybe the constant cycle of bad quarterback decisions and baffling coaching moves could finally end. And in Cleveland, hope is like gold.
Currently fourth on the depth chart in Cleveland. What do you think about what's going on with that, Sanders?
Oh, man, it's crazy how they're doing my boy, man, honestly. But he balled out. So I low-key love that he got this chance to play in this preseason game because it showed, like, y'all can doubt him and y'all can say all that stuff y'all saying about him. But what God got for the boy, can't stop it. That way he put that wrist up.
That's
you
right.
see him put that wrist up. After that, when he tapped that wrist, like, make sure that watch still there.
That's right.
That watch still shining, boy.
Right.
It's still shining, boy.
I hate that he got the oblique injury now.
Meanwhile, on the NFL stage, this saga turned into a cautionary tale. Other coaches were probably watching Stefanski and taking notes. Don't admit you were wrong unless you want to trend for 48 hours straight. But here's the twist: what Stefanski lost in dignity, he gained in relatability. Fans actually respected the honesty. Sure, they roasted him mercilessly, but deep down, they appreciated a coach who didn't try to gaslight them with cliches. He said what they already knew. He validated their frustration. And so, the fallout became less about Flacco's failures and more about what comes next. Sanders was now the unofficial king of Cleveland, Flacco was the butt of endless jokes, and Stefanski, well, he was the guy who accidentally turned an apology into the most interesting storyline of the Browns season.